Hello, I'm here today to go over the notes that you missed in class on the circulatory or the cardiovascular system. So, there's a variety of different topics that we're going to talk about today in class. You should have received an email with the student pace pair deck. So, that's what I'm going to go through and kind of reteach if you need it. The major topics are the functions of the circulatory system, the structure of the heart, different types of blood vessels, and heart health. So let's get started. So the circulatory system consists of the heart, the blood vessels, and the blood. Now we've already talked about the blood last week, so you should be familiar with the fact that you have plasma, platelets, red blood cells, and white blood cells. It carries needed substances to the cells of your body and waste products away from cells. You don't want those waste products anywhere in the body. So that's what part of the job of the circulatory system is. And then we also blood contains cells that fight off disease. That's your white blood cells. So, circulation in your human body is that blood is going to flow throughout a circle again and again and again, over and over and over again throughout your body. So, of course, I have this question. If you were to track a red blood cell from start to finish, how long do you think it would take to circulate through the body and back to the heart again? So, on your student pace pair deck, please respond. Correct answer is it takes about a minute. It takes about 60 seconds on average. Sometimes a little shorter, sometimes a little quicker or a little longer, but on average about a minute for those red blood cells to circulate around your body. Blood is going to move in a continuous pathway in those blood vessels. Those blood vessels are kind of like the highway transportation systems of your body. And then it's your heart that's actually like the motor. The system provides the body cells with needed substances and carries away any cellular excretions, which basically mean any waste products that your cells need to get rid of. Here's a couple fun facts. The power behind the circulatory system or the motor is your heart. It pumps blood through the network of your blood vessels. If this network it was so large that it could be unraveled, it would wrap around the world more than twice in just your body. Pretty wild. So this is a live beating heart. They're actually doing like an open heart surgery. So you have a heart-lung bypass machine, but you can actually see how your heart actually looks, from the inside. So the heart is a four-chambered organ. Those four chambers are unique to mammals. The heart pumps blood through your blood vessels, adjusting the rate and flow and pressure based on your body requirements. So when you're at rest, when you're running, when you're walking, when you're doing physical exertion, it's going to increase. But when you're at rest, it's going to kind of come back down to what we call resting heart rate or normal. So that's a little bit about the heart. These are some photos, and there's also a video you can watch there. The different heart rates of different types of organisms. And then you can see, I put a picture of the earthworm here because our earthworm actually has 5 hearts. Pretty wild. So the human heart is made up of 4 hollow chambers. They're hollow because blood fills them up. You have a thick wall septum that separates the heart into the left and the right side. So that kind of, you need to know the right side, the left side. Think of your heart being inside of you. Wherever your right arm is, that's your right side. Wherever your left arm is, that's your left side. The right side has oxygen poor blood, which means it's high in waste that gets pumped to the lungs to drop off that excess CO2 and pick up fresh oxygen. And then the left side of the heart has oxygen rich blood that actually gets delivered to the body. Now, when you're talking about the colors of blood, we learned last week that blood is always red. It's either going to be bright red or dark crimson red, but it's always going to be red. When it's oxygen rich, it's going to be that bright red. When it's oxygen poor or has that CO2 and high in waste, it's going to be a dark crimson red. So that's how you can really tell the difference between them. So, of course, you have a couple questions right in your pair deck that you can answer. More about the structure. The upper chambers of the heart are called atriums, and then the lower chambers of the heart are called ventricles. I think it looks like a peak, or ventricles is kind of like a valley. So you can kind of remember what part of the heart they are a part of. Then there's going to have valves, specific valves that kind of open and close that allow that blood to kind of be pumped at the right motion throughout your heart. So these are the specific names: mitral, tricuspid, aortic, and pulmonary valve. Again, on this student pace pair deck, you can see that you have to put a purple heart above, because that's your atrium. Think of an atrium in like a building, or the ventricles, which looks like a V. So that's going to be the bottom chambers. Then, of course, that's just your photo of your heart. Here's a brain pop that you can watch too, that goes over the structure of the heart. There's a group of cells right in the right atrium that actually regulates. It's called a pacemaker that regulates how fast your heart needs to go. So it kind of takes in information from the outside environment based on your activity level, and it will increase or decrease your heart rate. Some people you might have heard have like an artificial pacemaker that they embed basically to make sure that your heart stays within rhythm. The next topic is your blood vessels. You have three types of blood vessels. There's arteries, veins, and capillaries. If you look at them, they all look a little different just based on your structure. So let's talk about each one individually. Arteries are blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. Arteries go away. They are thick-walled. As you can see in this photo here, they're thick-walled because there's a lot of pressure in the pumping action of your heart. So they need to be strong. They need to be tough. They have to have more of that muscle. And then blood in the arteries is under pressure from the pumping action of the heart, and the aorta is actually the largest artery in the body. Then they'll get smaller, 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 smaller until they reach these capillaries. Capillaries are actually where they do your exchange of your nutrients, exchange of your oxygen, pick up of your CO2. We sometimes say the capillaries is where you'll have that color change. And they're the smallest type of blood vessel. So again, they connect to every cell in your body. Next, you have your veins. Your veins receive blood from your capillaries. So again, they're going to start out very small, and then they're going to get larger and larger and larger as they make their way back to the heart. So they transport blood under low pressure from the capillaries back to the heart again. A lot of times you'll see pictures of veins. They're shown as blue. Again, we know that blood is not blue, and they have valves in there to prevent backflow because there's not much pressure behind them. So they kind of swing by with the blood from the extra push from the arteries. Okay, so that's your veins. And then, of course, there's three questions. You can see type of blood vessel carries blood away from the heart, the thin outer wall under lower pressure, and then the smallest of them all. And then the last section that we're going over is there's three loops in the circulatory system. The first loop that we're going to talk about is the pulmonary loop. Pulmonary actually means lungs. So your lungs, you need to go to your lungs to pick up your oxygen and drop off your CO2. So that's kind of where that happens. It gains oxygen and drops off CO2, and then it will flow back to the heart. Okay, so that's your pulmonary. It has to go to the lungs for that. The systemic loop is actually going to be through the systems of your body. So it's all of the blood needs to get to all the different cells in your body. That's your systemic loop. So once the oxygenated blood is back in your heart, it's going to go out your aorta and deliver oxygen and pick up waste to anywhere in your body. Okay, it could be your right foot, it could be your left hand, it could be your eyeball, it could be your brain, but then it's going to make its way back to the heart. And then the third loop that we talk about are your coronary loop, which is your coronary arteries and veins. That's basically your own little blood supply of your heart. A lot of times individuals that have heart attacks, they have a blockage in one of their coronary arteries. Which causes excess stress, can cause, like I said, a heart attack. And they're kind of your three loops. So again, the pulmonary goes to your lungs, the systemic goes to the systems of your body, and then your coronary goes in and around your heart. I have a couple questions about those. This is an overview video on circulation, which is really good. Again, it's a brain pop. And then our last slide, as well as heart health, is talking about blood pressure. Blood pressure is a force of the blood moving through your blood vessels. It's measured with a sphygmomanometer. Anytime you've ever been to the doctor's office, you put a blood pressure cuff on, and they squeeze it. And then once it reaches a certain value, they release it, and then they count how many times they hear the pumping of the valve. So that's kind of what is how we measure your heart health. You can have low blood pressure, high blood pressure. The normal is 120/80. And that's that. And then this is, again, a video about blood pressure and specifically heart health. So thank you for listening. Hopefully this helped you understand the lesson that you missed today in class. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your teacher.